Hi. Hey. Hello. It's Sunny, and this is going to be a very passionate essay about one of my favorite films growing up, a teen comedy that excels at everything as to what makes a special film. To me, even as a kid, I always found teenagers fascinating, especially within the realm of fiction. Being able to accurately depict that time of your life where you're hitting adulthood and trying to figure out your place in the world. And this film greatly reflects this ideology. That film? Well, it's a certified banger.
Ferris.
I'm sure y'all know about this cinematic classic, and if you don't, well, what the fuck are you doing? Go watch it right now! So let's uncover the secret brilliance of the cinematic gem, yet we can't do this without talking about how this film came into existence. I don't understand a thing. Legendary director behind some of the most iconic teen films ever, John Hughes, was writing the screenplay for this film in 1985, keeping track of the story in a logbook, and once notified by Ned Tannen, the Paramount Studios chief, that the Writers Guild of America was planning to picket the studio, Hughes managed to write the entire damn screenplay in less than a week. You know this dude is built like that, for real. Paul Hirsch, the editor, explained how Hughes had a trance-like concentration when it comes to his script writing process, working for hours on end and shooting his films just off the first draft, ending up with the film at 2 hours and then cutting it down through his latest script, having such freedom in the editing room. Hughes always focuses on characters more than the plot, always knowing how a film begins and how it ends, yet never what happens in the middle, but not really caring, always focusing on making the characters as real and as human as possible. Eventually, he would get the cast, specifically Matthew Broderick, who he always had in mind for the role of Ferris, due to his overall youthful charm, and thus, the film was made and was a hit. Yet, why does it still resonate with us generations later? Did Hughes succeed in his goal to make believable characters? Well, this film is incredible with how it handled its overall filmmaking. Though it's not the most revolutionary filmmaking ever, it doesn't need to be to create itself. It's so creatively fun in how subtle it portrays itself and enhances the overall humor of the movie. First off, the soundtrack is just funny as hell. Let me tell you how bizarre yet weirdly each track for scenes really works well to enhance the humor and overall mood. You could be having the most wackiest, goofiest Disney Wonderland shit going on to explore a character's mindset, and then in another scene have the most suspense-inducing horror movie shit for another scene. It's downright funny and works, and the very specific license tracks used help enhance the film's overall charismatic nature, feeling like songs a teenager would listen to, at least from the 80s, or hell, even now since 80s culture is still alive and thriving. The cinematography as well does a great job at capturing the overall adventure teen feel to this film, really convey the overall emotion set in by the kids in every scene, which is aided by the incredibly well-handled editing that greatly expands the humor, by quick shot cuts that replicate each other, to hilarious scenarios of the characters missing each other, and the exaggerated overreaction, yet hilarious calmness to the character's position. The overall city of Chicago is such large in scope and scale, from the point of view of our characters, and it's filled with such fun opportunities that the kids take advantage. Contrast to the mundane and boring drab of the ordinary American 80s high school, yet also how creative Ferris is to everyone else. I mean, just his room alone is bursting with such energy compared to the rest of his squeaky clean house. Important production details like this are so crucial to a film's identity, and this picture nails it. Such a perfectly well-directed feature, just as well as the highly well-handled. This entire cast of characters are fantastic and greatly portrayed, yet let's discuss each as we go along. The overall background of this film, from the smallest of the extras to dialogue-speaking characters, really filled this film with such a vibe, from the hilarious secretary of Rooney to the ordinary and cheering students that showcase Ferris's popularity and influence, and the everyday civilians. Ferris's parents are so gullible and easily fall under his influence, yet are tender and sweet parents that perfectly replicate the ideal image of an American marriage and parentship. Our primary antagonist, Principal Edward Rooney, who is the opposite of our hero, devoid of fun and optimism, and works well as the sort of version of Ferris he doesn't want to grow up as, who is so out to ruin his plans, and eventually gets his comeuppance. Our secondary antagonist, Jeannie Bueller, who works well as the pissed-off sister always mad at how her brother gets his way and the universe seems to ignore her, only to finally coming around to accepting his brother's antics and supporting him after learning to only focus on her own issues and work through them. Then, at last, we have our core trio, Sloane Peterson, Cameron Fry, and our main man, Ferris Bueller. Sloane is the ultimate kind of gal we've all met at least once in our life. The slick, charming, fun, and caring individual always looking out for her friends and going along for the adventure. Cameron, who honestly might be my favorite character in the film, is the everyday, skeptical, and no fun kind of best friend. The guy who never allows himself to experience the joys of life, but with the help of his opposite best pal, allows himself to be free for the day. Then, the main man Ferris, the cunning and charming ideal American high school senior, who has luck on his side, the ultimate everyday youthful high schooler who never lets life's tragedies throw him down under and stop him from being optimistic and having fun with the people he holds most in the world. Valued, morally just, is such a fantastic film protagonist, and the overall dynamic between the trio really holds the film together, and honestly, is what keeps this film timeless and always worth revisiting. Alongside this film's You Got Away. This film is my kind of storytelling. I've always been a fan since I was a young child of stories centered around teenagers, and this film perfectly represents why teenagers are the ultimate fictional protagonists. The entire setup of this movie is for our delightful Ferris Bueller wanting to spend an adventurous day in his life with his close pals and skip the mundane, pure bullshit of high school, and try not to get caught in the process. Yet, when you look a little deeper, there's a lot more depth in this film. As I've said earlier, Rooney is the anti-Ferris, the adult antagonistic man who's not just out for him, yet his young spirit, this mundane and everyday hard-working individual who wants to prove the arrogance of Ferris's ways, of beating the system and wanting to live his life, right alongside Jeannie. Only unlike Rooney, Jeannie, though frustrated at Ferris's power to get everything, is really deep down frustrated at her own self for not really focusing on herself and learning to embrace herself and what she wants, managing to turn things around in the end and support her brother. Then there's of course our kids. Sloane representing Ferris's fear of growing up and how his teenhood is coming to a close, graduating in a few months and Sloane being a junior, wanting to even marry her and spending as much time as he can with her before eventually they won't be able to see each other every day, and Sloane always loving him back. Yet I think the most important piece of this film is within Cameron. There's so many layers to Cameron, how it's been detailed how much his dad loves his sweet,
the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California.
Yeah, that car. Even more so than his wife and clearly than his own son. Now Ferris throughout the film tries to showcase Cameron his way of life, to live in it, and embrace the fun and beauty of it all, with Cameron starting the film as a dead inside kid with no love in his life, allowing himself to be free, and by the end, finally learning to stand up for himself and embrace the optimism, learning to step up to his dad. Then there's Ferris, who is honestly kind of the perfect character. He's just this young kid trying to never waste a single second and live his teen years to the best that he can. So then, what's his deal? Nothing at all. Instead, it's us, the audience, who his arc centers around, showcasing to us that we can all be our own Ferris Bueller, no matter how old or young we are, because there's only one lesson we need to learn away from Mr. Bueller, from John Hughes, and from this masterpiece.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
I hope through this video I've shown to you the sheer brilliance of this incredibly timeless and generation-defining masterpiece known as Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Why not only it's so great, yet why it still touches us all through these many years later, how to value this cherished lesson of life. Ever since I was a kid, I followed this mentality too, spending every second of our lives to make it worth it. And you've all added to it, no matter who tells me, I love doing YouTube, and expressing my love for the art of cinema. And I hope you guys will follow this sentiment too. It's been Sunny, and so long, farewell, and goodbye.
Everybody in that movie is great. There's no fluke about it. It was cast brilliantly, written brilliantly, directed brilliantly, and it appeals to the very most basic part of the human spirit, which is to be free to be able to do what one wants, to have a day off and get away with it.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.